Thanks for joining me on this vlog. As we look back at last year, there's one thing that we found to be true, that because of all the changes that were taking place and how quickly they were taking place, we found out the importance of having really good processes and really good people as a part of our dealership team. Now, as we look at 2021, all of the dealers that we're consulting with, we feel pretty confident that we're still going to have a good, strong whole goods year if the manufacturers have the ability to provide the inventory. And I know that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. But the other thing we do know for a fact is that when you look at the fixed operations side of the dealership, the parts and service side, it always lags 1 year behind the whole goods side. So because we had such an incredible amount of whole goods sold in 2020, we know pretty confidently that we're going to have a tsunami of service and parts that are going to take place in 2021. So what I wanted to do in this meeting, I wanted to talk just briefly about some things that we could do to really kind of tune in our service department, to take advantage of it. And then on my next vlog, I'm going to talk a little bit about the parts side of things from we go there. But we do understand that if we're going to be successful in 2021 in service and parts, we've got to really have our processes nailed. So really, when we think about processes and the service side of it, it really starts with the work order or the repair order, whatever your system calls us, and making sure that you're collecting good information on that. Now, one of the things I try to get all of my service managers to understand, that while phone numbers are important and emails are important and addresses are important, the most important thing that you can get from a customer's perspective on a work order or repair order today is that cell phone number, because communication is the key. And when we get behind, like I think we're going to have in 2021 here, we have to accelerate the ability for ourselves to communicate with the customers and have the customers get back to us. So texting is a huge part of what you have to be doing in your service department. Now, a lot of your software has texting. We happen to like and really recommend a company called Connect, K-E-N-E-C-T. I'm sure you've been on webinars with either Sarah or I on them, but if you're looking for texting, I really love what they do and their ability to really help the service and the parts department communicate better with the customers. So again, thinking about your work orders or repair orders, well, all of that customer information you get is important. There is nothing today more important than getting that cell phone number. The other thing when we think about our work orders or our repair orders is making sure that whoever's gathering the information from the customer is asking good questions. There's nothing that slows a shop down more than having a work order that says, make it work or fix it so it runs. So when you're thinking about those work orders or the repair orders, if you don't have a dedicated service writer, and I know some of you do, but many of you don't, if you don't have a dedicated service writer and you've got somebody maybe at the parts counter that is helping write work orders and check people in, make sure that they've got what we call repair questions lined out on a sheet of paper. In our dealer toolbox, if you happen to be a member of our dealer toolbox, you can go to the service tab and pull up a thing that says repair questions, and it'll walk your person that's checking that customer in through some series of questions to make sure that we're getting good information. If you're not in the toolbox, you can create your own repair questions just by going back to your technicians and say, hey, look, when somebody brings a tractor in, what are 5 or 6 questions I should be asking them to make sure that we're getting good information? When somebody brings a side-by-side in, or they bring their boat in, or they bring their lawnmower in, doesn't matter what it is, their excavator, what are some questions I should be asking them as a person that's creating this work order that would help you do a better job as a service tech finding and affecting the repair in a faster way? So those repair questions are an important part of it. It doesn't help a technician if on a work order you put down, customer says it doesn't work, fix it. So again, that information is an important part of it. And again, if you're in our dealer toolbox, we already have those set up. If you're not in our dealer toolbox, I would encourage you to have your service writer or whoever's checking that customer in, get with the technicians and make a list of 7 or 8 questions that if the technician were there, they would ask the customer to help that technician do a better job when they're triaging. The other thing we have to understand, that our goal in the service department is to make the parts department's life easier. Yes, I said that. Our job in service is to help the parts department have an easier job fulfilling the parts that we need back in the shop. Now, and one of the ways we do that, and it's a part of our service process, we incorporate a process called triaging. So triaging, think of a paramedic at an accident site. So if you had a paramedic at an accident site, they would get there, and the first thing they're doing is they're starting to do some evaluation on the people that are hurt. And they're communicating back to the emergency room on what might need to be in place so when they're bringing these patients in, the hospital is ready. Well, that's really what triaging is in the service department. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the service tech to look at the equipment within 24 hours after it comes into the dealership. So if you have a tractor that came in today, our goal would be within 24 hours or before this time tomorrow, a technician would have gone out, evaluated that tractor. Even though we're not ready to fix it, they're looking for what might it need, what parts might it need, so that when we get it ready to come in, we know what parts we need for it. And the parts department's had 4 or 5 days notice to go ahead and get those parts ordered if they don't have them in stock. So we're never waiting for parts in our service department. You want to make your service department efficient, have the parts already set up there, and you do that by doing this triage process. So when we think about triage, and this is the common question I get asked, the dealers and service managers say, well, Bob, who do I have do triage? You have your technicians do it. Whoever's going to work on that unit triages it. Now, what we've created in our dealer toolbox is a triage sheet for almost any type of equipment. I don't care if it's a baler, a tedder, an excavator, a skid steer, a side-by-side, a boat, a zero-turn mower, a chainsaw, chipper shredder. We have triage sheets in our toolbox that covers every type of a piece of equipment out there. So if you're in the toolbox, you can go right into the toolbox, go into the service tab, and you'll have all access to all the triage sheets that we've done. And these are sheets that we built over the years with technicians that really walk you through everything that you should be looking at. So as an example, if you've got a tractor in there, we've got a triage sheet that would walk you through everything that you should be looking at on that tractor. Everything from the oil to the filters to the tire pressures to the battery charge, everything that you could possibly look at on it. So what we're trying to do when we have the customer's machine in there is to say, look, here's what it's in here to fix, but what other things might it need that we could call the customer, text the customer, and ask them if they'd like to have us repair them while they're in there. So that triage sheet gives us kind of a checklist. Now, if you have a service coordinator or a porter, right, the service coordinator will do some of the work on the triage sheet. They'll load test the battery, and they'll check the tire pressures, and they'll do some basic things like this. But I want you to understand that the technician is the person that walks through and does the triage on this. When they're done with the triage, they turn that sheet in along with the work order to the service manager, and then the service manager can go ahead and communicate to the parts department or the customer if there's some additional things that needed to be on it about what the repair might cost, and we can go ahead and get pre-approval on it. And if they pre-approve it, we can go ahead and we can start moving that equipment through. So I really want to encourage you. 2021 is going to be a phenomenal year for service and parts if you can handle it. And again, what we have to do is we have to look at everything we do and say, what are our processes and are we really efficient doing it? And I'm going to challenge you, again, make sure that when you're checking equipment in, number one, on that work order or repair order, we need a cell phone number for the customer so we can text them to get approvals and communicate through text. The average person will respond to a text in 3 minutes or less. I mean, it's phenomenal how quickly you can do it. So think about texting for that. I also want to encourage you, again, to make sure that you got those repair questions built out so whoever's checking the equipment in is asking the right questions so that when the unit gets back to our shop, we know what we're looking for as we're trying to repair it. That's going to speed up your efficiency in your shop. And the last thing, again, is really focus on doing this triaging process. I'm going to challenge you to look at how can you go out within 24 hours and start communicating to the customer on the status of their equipment. We're not going to repair it in 24 hours, but we can at least put our eyes on it. And if it needs things that we see it needs, we can either communicate to the customer to ask the customer if they want us to fix that while it's in here, or if we see what it needs and it's in for that, we can go ahead and communicate to the parts department to give them 4 or 5 days notice to get that part into our shop. So when we bring that unit in, it is ready to repair and we can be efficient as we go through and do it. I'm excited about 2021. I hope you are too. Reach out to us if we can help in any way. And if you don't have a triage sheet or you don't have access to the dealer toolbox, just email me, bob@bobclements.com, and I would be happy to send you a sample of a triage sheet so you can either use our sample or you can build out your own. Make this year a year where parts and service simply blows up and makes you money.